Hello. So, been a couple of weeks since I've done an update, so I thought I'd do one real quick. Um, yeah, it's obviously the date's on the video, but it's early March. I It's spring break here at my university, and actually it's a Tuesday, so it's the second day of break. I'm just now starting to feel like I have some like space to breathe. Uh, I've been I did all of my grading last week, and then over the weekend I caught up. It when you conjugate words like that as an English professor, it feels very shameful. I caught up on my uh, I guess service work, my bureaucratic work, and then graded, caught up on service work. I've just been I think like Sunday and Monday, I was just gathering my wits. I in this book group through my church, we have we're reading this book called, I have it around here somewhere. It's called Wardrobes and Rings. It's the Inklings, specifically Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, but other Inklings. I don't know if you know who the Inklings are. And there's a reading for every day. So for 40 days of Lent, it's Lent right now. You have a reading, and the writers take basically like an essay from C.S. Lewis or a passage from the Lord of the Rings, and connect it to some sort of scripture. And actually, my wife and I have been reading it. We read one page a night, and it's pretty thematic. But yeah, read that. Finished reading a novel by this publisher writer named Dave Ritzlin called Against the Demon World. It's like a classic sword and sorcery novel. It's indie. When I say classic, it just came out, so it's in February. It's really good. And then I'm still reading some Warhammer fiction. Reading Fear to Tread by James Swallow. It's about the death of, if you know your Warhammer 40k lore, it's about the death of Sanguinius. It's the 21st book in the Horus Heresy. It's like a long novel cycle in the Warhammer 40k universe. I have a dentist appointment here in about an hour. Just like a standard visit. Nothing, no procedures. I think it's mostly just like a cleaning and a checkup. I hate that you schedule for this stuff for breaks. It's like you don't want to have to do anything. I would love just to stay home and like be in my lounging clothes all day and play video games and read, Warhammer novels. But you got to get these things done when you're free. So, there's a sweet sweeper outside, so I apologize for the sound. Yeah, what else? Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of anime, which is like I want this year, 2026, to be like a film year. I spend a lot of time watching more film, audiovisual in general, like television too, but mostly films. But I've recently, this last month, I've just rediscovered my love of 1980s OVAs, original video animations. There's a whole conversation to be had about what makes OVA so interesting. But if you're not familiar with anime, they are they were released on video almost exclusively. Obviously there's exceptions, but almost exclusively on VHS. They were really expensive, so they were like, if you bought them in the States, they were like I think they were like $40 to $50 in the late 80s, early 90s. I was too young to, but I have a couple of these zines that look at OVAs, and they are expensive. But they were they're produced with a large budget for such a small niche thing, so they were kind of like a luxury commodity. Like you had to be part of this subculture, so they were high quality, but they weren't mass culture, right? They were like subculture. I don't know if that makes any sense. So for example, The Ghost in the Shell, I think, is an OVA. I'm not sure if it was actually released in the theaters, but Vampire Hunter D, that's the one everybody knows about. That was an OVA. It's not released in theater, released on video. I'm pretty sure it wasn't released in theaters, um, but they tended to be darker because as far as I can understand, like the OVA, it was seen as like a you didn't have to get through, like rated R, rated PG. I'm sure they had something different in Japan at the time, but the standards of what can be shown, what can't be shown were lifted, and so the OVA format became kind of edgy. You could have a little bit of like erotica, a little bit of gore, violence, that sort of things. So sometimes it's gratuitous. By the way, I was watching this one called Wicked City, and it's just it's a great horror story. Kind of reminded me of the action movie Escape from New York, but with like demons and horror. So the city's not filled with criminals, but with demons and extra dimensional entities. But they just throw in some sex every now and again, and I feel like it's because the OVA format, like when people were expecting it. So you get this thing where like the media environment creates demand or builds expectation. So I got this OVA and there was no sex or there was no gratuitous violence. I don't know if that makes any sense. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of those. My wife and I are watching a 6-episode one called Gunbuster, which is pretty interesting. One of the great things about watching anime to me is that it doesn't hew to Western tropes. Like you don't realize like how much assumptions and how many codes, conventions that you're like bringing to any piece of media that you watch, because you're part of a culture. So like if I go and watch a mystery and there is a narrative track over top of it, or like the detective is exploring their inner monologue, like that's not strange to me. I know that detective films often have that narrator speaking over the top of the mise en scène or whatever, the diegesis. Those are film terms for the world of the film. But if you're not familiar with that convention, let's say you're from like, I don't know, Tokyo, maybe, well, if you're from Tokyo, you've probably seen Western detective films, but maybe you just don't watch detective films, you've never seen one before. It might be strange that you have like a narrative voice over top of it. So, long story short, watching these animes, there's these interesting conventions and codes that you're just not familiar with. They're kind of strange, and so it restores a sense of immediacy to the media that you watch. It's almost like it's like a restoration of childhood to some extent. Like this one Gunbuster that I was just telling you about. It has it's like a high school drama. So girls kind of struggling with gossip and bullying and stuff. At the same time, it's giant robots in outer space, and throw in some weird physics, time distortion. Not something I was, expecting. It's not as, I'm sure that the high school drama is a Japanese thing. I'm sure the giant robot is a Japanese thing. But this like mishmash is like really intriguing. It seems just completely bizarro world to me. I feel like I was talking a million miles an hour just now. I'm drinking some coffee. So I have this coffee mug. It says Gothic AF. It has a list of all these monasteries and cathedrals. I teach a study abroad course. I take students to York and London, where they read Gothic novels, and then they go to Gothic ruins, and we have lectures and discussions at these places. It's a great class. But we made this mug for this class. One of my students, they saw something and they referred to it as Gothic AF. They didn't say AF. They used the letters. They said Gothic AF. They're not cussing around me, but I thought that was hilarious. And so my co-teacher had these mugs made. On that note, that's probably enough update for now. I'm probably going to try to make this more regular. I'm doing a Let's Play on a Warhammer 40k game that I've let stall because I got to a level where I just completely died, and I had to restart it. So I might try to get back into that. The game's called Battle Sector, so But yeah, I just got so busy I stopped doing it. But all right, well, glad to do one of these, and I hope you're well. Have a good day.